Hey guys, this is Metalhead Nation 1021, and this is part 2 of the CD collection that I have as of October 25th, 2017. I do have some other CDs, I'm just going to add that right now, but they're not metal, so I'm just going to be showing the metal CDs. Anyways, let's get right to it. So I've gone through most of the albums that I've either received, gotten at a concert, things like that, but there are a lot of albums I've just gotten for my birthday or just bought myself at a local CD store. So first, I'm gonna go over the first album that I bought over the summer when I really got into CDs, which is Meshuggah, The Violent Sleep of Reason. I've actually never looked at the title of this album. I'm sorry. And this album, it's definitely a good Meshuggah album, but I don't think it compares to some of their other releases. The drums are still amazing. It still sounds like mechanics, just these crazy robots. It's really cool, and I really like that album. Next, I have Vader, The Empire. Now, this one has a lot of really thrashy elements, even though it's a death metal album, and just the double bass and some of the drum fills and the blast beats, just crazy. The guitar solos are super fast. Obviously, it's death metal. They use the whammy bar. It's really cool, and I definitely recommend that one because I didn't know what to expect when I picked it up. It was definitely worth the money. Next, I have Septic Flesh Codex Omega, which is actually really unique because it has orchestras playing in the background, and some of the songs, I think it's Third Testament. It's so catchy. You can listen to it 1,000 times, and you cannot not headbang to it. It's just absolutely crazy, but also it knows what it's doing and it stays in line, and the song structure is perfect. Definitely recommend that album. Next, we have Overkill, The Grinding Wheel, which is one of the first albums this summer that I got. I got this at this place called Earfood that's about 30 minutes from my house, and I had just seen Overkill earlier this year with Nile, and definitely that sparked my interest in the band, so I picked up the CD, and it turned out amazing. The drumming on this one, I mean, Overkill is not really known for their drumming, but the drumming on this one, I think they recruited a new drummer sometime between this album and the last one, and just the drumming is absolutely amazing. The guitar work is great, but it's really the drumming that sticks out. I'm a drummer myself, so I can't help to really realize the drumming in some of these albums. Speaking of the drumming, you can't leave out Nile when you're talking about super amazing, fast drumming. In Their Darkened Shrines by Nile, I think it's the album that they released right before George Callias joined the band, and definitely an underrated album. It has some of their best songs, and the drummer before George is just, the fills are definitely a lot more traditional metal instead of technical death metal, and it's really interesting to hear the change in sound just between this album and Annihilation of the Wicked, and it's definitely a great album, way underrated. A lot of these songs aren't actually played live, which is a shame because they are great. Next, one of the more recent CDs that I bought is Suffocation of the Dark Light, which actually I found the album on iTunes first and listened to sections of it, and I fell in love with it's actually the first Suffocation album I ever bought, and to this day the only one because I really haven't been able to afford any recently. So, definitely a great album. The guitar work, as always, in Suffocation is amazing with the sweep-picking solos and the brutality mixed with the technicality. Definitely a very unique sound, and definitely is one of their best, which is pretty hard to say because they've released so many amazing albums. Anyway, that is a great album, and I recommend it. Next, we have Holy War by Thy Art Is Murder. One of the older albums I bought, actually, and this one, definitely not as good, in my opinion, as Hate was, and definitely not as technical as The Adversary. It's still amazing, and the atmosphere is definitely there, and the breakdowns are brutal. It's definitely one that you shouldn't pass up on, and if you can find it, you should definitely buy it. I got a pretty good deal on this. It was only $8. Uh, Definitely I recommend that album because it really does help complete the discography that they've released so far, which is, I'll say, extremely strong. And I love this album. I definitely am glad that I purchased it. But it's definitely not their best. Anyways, the next album is Havoc, Conformicide, and I just got this one a few days ago for my birthday. And definitely one of the best, I guess it'd be considered a thrash resurgence albums I've listened to. The drumming, again, is extremely technical, especially for thrash metal. And the guitar work, the guitar solos especially, absolutely, they're extremely unique and absolutely brutal and perfect at the same time. Definitely one of the best thrash albums in general that I've heard. And the bass, I forgot to mention the bass. The bass guitar is absolutely amazing on this album. It's super brutal, but also really melodic at times, and it's definitely an album that you're going to want to pick up, because it's definitely one of the best thrash albums of all time, in my opinion. Next, we have Origin Unparalleled Universe. I actually got to see this band on the Summer Slaughter tour. One of my favorite bands. Definitely one of my favorite bands, and probably, in my opinion, the best or second best technical death metal band of all time. This album, there is Antithesis, which is in 2008, which was really, really technical. And this album blends the technical elements with some more brutal death metal elements, and it works. And it's definitely a great album. The production is great, and the drum sound, I feel like a lot of people don't like it, but personally, I think it's really, really interesting, because you can really hear the double bass and the single hits. And I definitely would recommend this album. It's one of my favorite albums of this year, which is saying something, because this has been one of the best years in death metal in a long time. Still waiting for the Cannibal Corpse and Morbid Angel albums. You guys like or comment if you agree. And this is actually a signed copy. It's the signatures inside the booklet. You can buy it on the internet. I don't remember where, but it's definitely worth it, because it's just awesome to have their signatures. Some of the best musicians of any genre, in my opinion. Next we have Gojira, and I don't want to butcher the name of this album, Terra Incognita. Definitely, it feels like the vocals are a lot heavier than their more recent albums, and it's not bad at all. It's a great album. The drumming and guitar is great, and it has a little electronic sound to me, and I definitely think that it's worth the money. It was kind of expensive. I think it was $15, but that's mostly because I bought it on CD. Great album, though. Definitely recommend it. And on the topic of bands that have changed their sound recently, we have Opeth with their new album. I need to find the title list, I'm sorry. Sorceress. Definitely a great album. The sound is more progressive rock. I mean, the album cover, as you can see, it does not do justice in a certain way to the music. Because while this would work on a death metal album, great, this is definitely a more progressive rock and lighter progressive metal CD. So the album cover, in my opinion, doesn't fit, but the album's not bad at all. It's great. And again, the instruments are great. It's definitely been a change of sound for the band. But I like it. Next, these are some really recent CDs, ones I got for my birthday. We have Children of Bodom. I'm probably pronouncing the name, or I don't know. Anyways, I got this one. The case is a little messed up, but it's a great album. It's not one of their most popular ones, but it definitely has some great songs, and again, I love the keyboard in these songs. That's what makes them so unique. And definitely recommend it. I need to find the name. It's Blood Drunk. That's the name of the album, and I definitely recommend it. I really like that album. Next, we have Meshuggah with, I want to say Obzen. I definitely butchered the name, but I love this album mostly because it has some of the most technical music of all time, combined with some great production, and it's extremely brutal. Definitely an album that I would recommend. It was decently priced, but it was definitely worth it. I love that album, and I know Bleed is probably considered by many of you to be overrated, but it's just It's a great song. I love that song. That's one of the main reasons I bought it. And it turns out there are a lot of other songs on that album that are really good. Two more left. Next, I have Galacticon, which is made by the same person who created Metalocalypse, the TV show on Adult Swim. This is Galacticon 2, Become the Storm. And this actually came with a patch inside, which is really cool, because I've never seen that in an album. And it's definitely great. The music is amazing, and Brendan Smalls is an absolutely amazing guitarist, and great story. Like, he's definitely great at telling stories in his albums, and also TV shows, because he created Metalocalypse. Anyways, the last album, and another one I got for my birthday this year, was Obscura, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. The CD actually came cracked, if you can see at the bottom, and right here. But that was really no problem, because the CD was in great condition. I can just replace the case if I need to. But I think this album has a 15-minute song, which is pretty unheard of unless you're Gorguts in death metal. And again, I'm a huge fan of Dream Theater. They're actually my favorite band, and I have all their music on iTunes. I still need to get it on CD though, but definitely has some elements of really technical progressive metal, and I really like it. I definitely recommend it to anybody out there that likes Dream Theater and or death metal, because it's really intricate, but also really good, and you can listen to it without feeling overwhelmed, because it definitely has that element of I don't really know how to say it, a good sound, but while retaining the technicality. And definitely one of my favorite albums. I know I've said that a lot, but there are just so many good albums, and I'm really happy with what I purchased. But I do recommend every single one of these albums, and I definitely think you should go out and get it, because all of these, because they're just great albums, and I'll tell you guys if there's one I don't like. And so far I've liked every single album I've got, and I could give each of them a re-listen. Well, I hope you guys had a great time watching the video. I know it was probably really cringy, and I know I have a pretty bad slur for some reason whenever I use an S, which is pretty hard to explain while using an S to explain it. Anyways, thanks for watching. This is Metalhead Nation 1021, and please check in on the next video. I have no idea what I'm going to do next. Thank you.